Thank you very much for allowing me to introduce myself to your friends and your audience. Well, I grew up I was born in 1945 in the province of Harar, eastern part of Ethiopia, and in a district called Guba Korecha. For your information, as I wrote it in my book, it's a population of 50 people, not 50,000, but 50. Predominantly the natives, or as we call it now in new terminology, the ethnic groups are Oromos. So I grew up among the Oromo people. And my father was a district governor, well educated on those days. He grew up in the Catholic school, and basically he's very articulate in Amharic. When I say articulate, I mean I'm talking about its grammar, and also fluent in Oromiña. He speaks a little French and Italian. My mother she's from a very conservative Orthodox family. Actually her parents were well-to-do. Well, my parents in general were very humble, and they raised me, my sister, my oldest and my youngest sister, in a very, should I say, conservative liberal? Conservative in the norms and values of Ethiopia, and liberal on the modern education. So until the age of like 6, I was attending a religious school, Orthodox school. Then when my father was transferred to a new province, then I joined the government school, and that's where I really learned about my country, Ethiopia, green, yellow, and red flag, which is still in my heart. So eventually, I finished up to 6th grade in Harar. Then I came to Addis Ababa. I attended boarding school. Then I took a ministry examination. Then I passed. Then I went to high school. From high school, I joined the army. From the army, I served in several places. So briefly, this is my life, which I wrote in my book.
Happy memory from your childhood. So
even though my parents, as I said, are, Orthodox, conservative, I say they are liberal in a sense that they allow me to assimilate or acculturate with the Oromos culture. So I grew up with the Oromo boys. I have my hair braided. We call it sadula now. We call it whatever you call it now. And now I was really a little bit rebellion when it comes to the family, because they usually go out for hunting, and I used to fight. And so my memory in Guba Korecha is something which is very, very difficult until now to explain, because it's still, in my heart. The boys we used to throw, what we call lomi, or emboy, and we used to hunt, different rabbits and run with donkeys and this and that. So, it's something internal for me, difficult to explain. Those are my happiest day period.
With those people, and who were they?
That's a very, very good question. We drove with two of my friends from here to Duredawa to attend the Kulubi, church ceremony. Then on our way back, I was telling them about Guba Korecha. I showed them in a distance that the area about Guba Korecha. So one of my friends said, why don't you go? I said, why not? So we turned around, we went up to the hill. When I just reached on the top of the hill, I saw a different Guba Korecha. On those days, it was a hat and there was a grass covered roof and this and that. But now I saw, metal, korkoro
Like a tin roof?
Yeah, a tin roof. Actually, to be honest, the structure of the area haven't changed a bit. So when I drove and reached the marketplace, the shop, which was owned by one of my best friend's father, was still there. And the moment I parked and I went out of the car, here is a guy, he looked at me and said, he said it in Oromia, but the Fisaha, that is Fisaha, So, everybody came and they hugged me and they took me to their house. So, everybody was happy, so jubilant, And so traditionally, when people from urban came to a rural area, you serve them eggs. So everybody came with a bunch of eggs, fixing for us. And chat,
What is chat?
Chat is actually something you chew, It's a stimulant in Harar, it's common. So whenever they bring you a fresh chat, it's a big honor. They honored you, they love you, they respect you, So, two of my friends were very surprised. I say, we heard different about the Oromos. Are these Oromos? I said, indeed they are. The true Oromos. So their hospitality, their happiness was so, beyond my imagination and beyond the imagination in particular of my friends. So that's it.
Very big city like Addis Ababa.
Let me tell you a good example. Probably I wrote it in my book. I was in the study of Ethiopian nationalities. We studied for 10 years. About 20 intellectuals, the cream of Ethiopia. So we traveled all over Ethiopia. This is one thing we have found. It's only the educated, the few educated, who advocate, separatism or animosity. Go to the north, east, or west. The rural people have no that kind, mentality. They all believe, let me tell you something. Probably you read The Wax and Gold. It says, Ethiopia, we do have, go to the north, east, or west, we do have a common denominator. That is, be it in agriculture or in norms and values. Yes, I speak Amharic and you may speak Orominya, the others speak Guraginya, but however, one thing which united us is Ethiopianism. It is only the urban areas who lacks Ethiopianism due to our cynical politics. Other than that, Ethiopians, everywhere you go, they embrace you. They share what they have. They might be poor, but whatever they have, they share. They are hospitable. Ethiopian hospitality is the hospitality which you will never find all over the world. Well, two things. As a scholar and a sociologist, I advise them to read. When I say to read, not a TikTok or YouTube, but read real books. There are books which are written about Ethiopia. For example, here in my book, there are more than 300 references about Ethiopia. So that's one way. The second is to see is to believing is seeing is believing. So whenever you come to Ethiopia, don't stay in the urban area. The urban Addis Ababa is the same as New York or Tokyo or Moscow or etc., big cities. So go to the rural area, you find different people, people which you see real people. So you will find the reality of Ethiopia, the history of Ethiopia, the true norms and values, the culture, etc., in the rural area, not in the urban. The urban area is, we are acculturated by the West. So you will find a diluted Ethiopians. To go to the rural area, you find the real Ethiopians, be it for good or for better. Good question. Actually, when I think about myself, why I am very open, number one, it comes from my family. Earlier, I told you my parents are conservative, and I said they're conservative and liberal, but their liberalism is they always want us to express ourselves. They listen to what we say. And also whenever I say something, my father listens and he corrects me, but in a very civilized and fatherly way. So I got that liberalism, that openness from my father. My father was a judge, well respected. I mean, not to praise him, God bless his soul, but whenever people talk about my father, be it the few Amaras or the majority Oromos, Asfaw is a very open and frank and sincere person. I think I inherited from him. Now, another thing is the army. See, the army actually teaches you a lot of things. Not only how to shoot or how to do this and that militarily, but, it actually shapes your behavior. What I get from the army is to be polite, number one, to speak direct, to walk straight, to tell the truth, and to respect the green, yellow, and red flag. All right? So that actually helps me now whenever I go to any a place, be it in private or government or with individual or with groups, or as you interview me now, I try to speak the truth. So my socialization from my house, from my parents, sorry, and my military combined gave me that strength. Well, actually, the day I graduate, 12 of my fellow officers were assigned to go to the Congo as a peacekeeping force. Imagine we're fresh. We haven't even experienced, the army life or the city life. We graduated today. I mean, we left Congo the third day. The third day we graduated, we went to Asmara. From Asmara, we flew directly to the Congo. So, anyway, I was the advance party of my company. So we have to fly. We flew from Asmara to Entebbe, Uganda. Uganda at that time was under the British rule, So it was, I don't know, could be 1 hour or an hour and a half flight. So when we landed in Entebbe, the United Nations representative received me and I introduced myself and he told me, so he gave me an area where I have to keep my troop. So I took that area and I asked them to tent. And finally he called me, well, now it's lunchtime, so you are going to have your lunch in that big house. So I looked at that house, very nice at the distance. To be honest, it's my first time to see that kind, flourished building. So when I went there with my sergeant, it was packed, no black face at all. And all the waiters and the cooks were black, they barefooted, so that they will not give noise while the white people were eating. I observed that, so now I went to my platoon. On those days, our shoes has some nail, so that when you drill, it would give noise. So I lined up my troops, and when it's that quiet place, with a noise like a drum, I seated them. So they start, once they seated and start eating, now it's my turn. It was a buffet I took, and I look around, there was no place, so I saw one chair with 3 white men. So I just went, excuse me, I apologize. I said, they didn't say anything, but I pulled and I sat down. And this time, they were so furious. I can see their face, turned into, red. The head of the waiters came with a big beer, that beer called Stanur. I will not forget it. So he poured and he gave it to me. Sir, this is for your honor. So I took, and thank you. So I sipped. And this time they were so furious. They didn't utter a word, but you can see their expression. And when I look at the kitchen, so every kitchen, black people were just looking at it, looking. They were happy. They were very happy. Very, very happy. They were so excited. So the Entebbe experience now when I sit down and look back, Ethiopia starts educating, giving morals and esprit de corps to the black people started in Tebe. They have never seen a black officer. They haven't seen a black soldiers with uniform, and they haven't seen a black officer or a black man eating next to a white person. So that's one experience. When we reached to Congo, Congo really is a true model of the evil of colonization. The Congolese, the highest education was 4th grade, very few. And there was no really road from one small town to the next small town. And Star level, which is the capital, is very neat. But at 6 o'clock, you will see all black people leaving the city. The city will remain only with whites. So now what happened? The city is replaced by Ethiopian force, which makes the Congolese very happy. And we start dating, Congolese women from the young, so to the city. And so to make the long story short, we gave the Congolese, we didn't give them freedom, we didn't bring peace. Still Congo is in trouble. But one thing we did is we gave them esprit de corps. We showed them equality. We showed them that black man is as good as a white man. This is my experience. Let me first share about my family. After I returned from the Congo, I was assigned in the 2nd Division as a Mara. I'm a very lucky individual. 3 months later, I was assigned as special assistant to the commanding general, and he appointed me as a liaison officer between the American base, Ganyo Station, and the 2nd Division. So while I was doing that job, General Baba Gamada is a very talented man who wants the army to be modernized, and he was encouraging young officers, to really shape the army. Anyway, while I was working then diligently, somehow I met this nurse. She's a nurse at the army hospital. So, after a few dating, so we got married. She had one son, whom I really still love, and if not more than my children, equal to my children. She gave birth to my first son. When we came to Ethiopia, to Addis, to visit, my parents asked her if he's a boy, if she could allow them to raise him. So we kept the promise, and they took him. And I was transferred from the 2nd Division to Addis Ababa as military police. During that time, my daughter, Maraki, was born. And that time I was taking a course on the prisoner of war. So that's why I called her Maraki, meaning prisoner of war means prison. War means, Maraki, so that's how I... And then, I was so young when I married Nigist. I haven't had any experience, like the young men, like going, as I told you, at the age of what? Immediately when I graduated, I went to Asmara, to Congo. From Congo, I went to Asmara. From Asmara, in Asmara, I met her, so I haven't had any, dating girls and going to a party and this and that. When I came to Addis, I became bizarre, what can I say, here you find some girls and here is a party and here is and then, so I forget my house. So because of that, my marriage went through. In between, I went to the United States for a military training, then came back. I studied civic action. I was assigned within the Ministry of Defense. I became the assistant civic action officer for Lieutenant General Asfaw, a man who actually shaped my life, a man whom I respect, not because he helped me, but his intelligence and his vision about the army. And anyway, I will talk later about him and the other generals. Now, to finish my marriage, then I went to the United States and I married this young lady, and I had one son. And when I married her, I was going to graduate school. Here is a son, and here is a family, and it is a graduate school. And in the meantime, I was offered the job to teach in one of the colleges. So imagine, family, PhD, and teaching. I was caught with these 3 things. Now, my ultimate goal is once I finish my PhD, then my family will be settled, will be secured financially, and then, we will have good life. That was my intention. But in between, one thing which, I will go to school, then teaching, then studying, then go to the library. By the time I come home, it will be 10:30, so I forgot the family, And I didn't know that a wife needs some kind of attention. So whenever my wife said something, I will just, jump and say, "Hey, look," instead of listening to her. So we couldn't go along, we divorced. Now, when I came to Ethiopia, I sat down and started thinking. I said, why my first marriage? Why my second marriage? So on my first marriage, what I found out is, I was very young. So whenever a man married at early age without actually exploring the world, the success of the marriage is very slim. That's one thing which I advise my listeners as well. And the second one, always wives need some kind of attention. You know, it's always to talk. It's always to tell why you are doing this and what is your ultimate goal, and have her consent. That goes to the female as well. See, talk, discuss. Now, I realized this on my third marriage, thank God. It's now about 40 years. After I realized this, now with my wife, when I do something, before I do something, I consult. We may argue, we may discuss, but I do it with her consent, and she does it with my consent as well. So in marriage is the most beautiful thing. Marriage, sociologically, is the basis of an institution. And marriage between a man and a woman is, even it's biblical, it's godly rather. But there is a friction. Young men or women shouldn't fear that friction and avoid marriage. But the solution is this. Once you get married, discuss the small things. Don't wait. Explore it. Once you do that, marriage will be successful. Well, actually, marriage, take it religiously. Religiously, yes, when the couples are believe or have one faith, it's good. Let me tell you in my case, when I married your mama, we were both Orthodox. In fact, she came out from the Orthodox family, and so we haven't had any problems. So, like, shall I say it, after 10 years or 15 years, one day she asked me, Fisaha, do you mind if I studied Bible? You know, I was not thinking about Protestantism. I said, sure. I mean, don't forget, I'm an educated man. I mean, when you read books, I'll be very glad. So I gave her all the lecture. She was very happy. So a month later, she came with one Pentecostal to my house. So he started preaching, you know. And I looked around and I said, what's going on? He said, now, well, you know, as I told you, I'm converted to Pentecostal. I said, okay, no problem, as long as, you know. Now, gradually, it starts, you know, interfering with my life or our life. She doesn't drink, but once in a while we used to drink beer. She drinks, well, a glass or a bottle and a wine. And we used to go to some, you know, restaurants and listen to a music, but all that is shattered. So where is my life? And she got up at like 3 o'clock and 10 o'clock, always praying, calling Jesus, Jesus. So I was furious and I said, well, now enough is enough. I will not get married anymore. I'm not going for the fourth one. So I have to divorce. A good friend of mine, God bless his soul, well versed in religion, in Orthodox. So I went to him and I said, Bake, his name is Bakala. I told him the whole story, you know. He listened to me sympathetically. He said, Fisaha, you've been carrying all this? I said, yes. But in between, he asked me one question. She believes in Jesus Christ, right? And you believe in Jesus Christ? I said, yes. Your difference is Mary, right? Anyway, she still believes Mary is the mother of Christ, but however, the difference is a little bit. What will happen, Fisaha, if she brings a witch to your house and with all this traditional garbage medicines and with all the coffee and with this and that? What will happen to you? You know, that struck. So now I took a decision. As long as she doesn't bring her religion at home, fine with me. Our difference is very minor, and I can tolerate that. Instead of, you know, again, annoying my two kids, at least I have to tolerate this, and God will forgive me for that. So that is my how I manage my issues. However, for your question, the world is changing. No, probably even religion itself has its own now, you know, way of polishing. If one marries from a different religion, as long as you keep your own religion and as much as possible bring the children to your religion, as long as you are happy and the family is happy, I don't see anything wrong. But make sure that person believes in God. He could be a Muslim, but still the Muslim believes in God. He could be a Protestant, believe in God. I don't advise you to marry, I don't know, a Buddhist or a Shantoist. So that's my advice, actually. You know, I'm not talking here now as an academia or as a sociologist, but I'm talking about, you know, as a common Ethiopian. Personally, for myself, America, I'm very always grateful to the people of the United States, especially my American family, Dr. and Mrs. Tice. They happen to be white, and Dr. Tice is a physicist in the famous Savannah River plantation, and yet their area is exclusively white. I was the only black. So for some reason, they took me to church, and that I didn't know that, but you know, they took me to church. Finally, I figured out why they did, and they introduced me as Fisaha Asfaw from Ethiopia, in particular Emperor Haile Selassie. So that Ethiopia was known by Emperor Haile Selassie and Ababa Bikila. You know, these are the two famous And then, so everybody in the community now knows me. Oh, that boy, oh, leave him, is Dr. Tai's son. So I'm always grateful to Dr. Tice and Miss Tice. God bless their soul. But their children, George, Mary, and Sally, is still, we connect. They are in South Carolina, in Aiken, South Carolina. My experience, you know, in the 60s, once I went to the United States, in the 60s, there was a movement, Black Panthers, all the black movement, you know. So I didn't join the Martin Luther group. I joined the Rat Brown and the other radical, you know, groups. So I used to wear big afro and black jacket, black pants, and what we call it shade, you know, black shade. And I was a kind of campus radical. Even though I'm a foreigner, I haven't any fear. In fact, I used to lead a certain group. Here is the story. Two things. One, in Augusta, the Black Panthers came and they create a kind of commotion. So everybody, we all went to the downtown, to the governor mansion to protest. Some of the Black Panthers, they were carrying guns, you know. And I carried guns. I didn't know that, you know. I mean, now, yes, I won't do it now, but I carry a gun. And then we'll round up the police. Finally, they asked me my name. So I said, Asfaw, Asha. What's the name is this? I am from Emperor Haile Selassie, you know. They said, the other guy said, no, this nigger must be a foreigner, you know. So they called the college and they told them that I'm from Ethiopia, I'm a student. Oh, the dean came, the university dean came, and he told me, look, Fisaha, you are not supposed, you are a student, you are a foreign student, this movement is a American black movement, please don't do it again. I said, yes, 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 but, you know, it didn't go through my my brain, whatever he said, you know. This is one experience. So what I'm trying to tell you was the way on those days black people were really treated, I mean, next to really a dog, especially in the South. So Fisaha, being raised in Ethiopia, being raised in Asfaw's family. So that really, you know, annoyed me. That made me very angry. That's why I joined. Now, another, there was a homecoming party in the college. So Aiken is about 25 miles from Augusta. So I took Dr. Tice's Volkswagen and I drove to Augusta. So, you know, I stayed until 2 o'clock. So on my way to Aiken, 2 o'clock, there was one car in front of me. I don't know who she is or who she is. So I was following that car. Really, when she turned left, I have to turn left because it's my way. So when we reach in the middle of a town, here is a siren, ooh, behind me. So I stopped. This is a husky, white police, and they come. Hey, boy. where's your driving license? I just gave him my driving license. Where is the registration car? I pulled the registration. Whose car is this? Catch this. This is my dad's car. So, who? You know, in those days they have this big loudspeaker which they communicate. So he took the microphone. This small nigger is talking about Dr. Tice, his father, and he's driving his car. So he said, hold on. So they called Dr. Tice. Still, you know, it was on the radio. Walkie-talkie, or what do you call it? Yeah. So I hear Dr. Tice say, yes, he's my son. He's not a nigger. He's from Ethiopia. You know. So, you know, he gave me, he said, okay, now move. Go. So he followed me until I reached to Dr. Tice's house. So Dr. Tice opened the door angrily, said, boy, I told you not to drive that evening. Why you didn't stay? Come on in. You know, he was a little bit, he was not angry, but, you know, he was worried that something would have happened to me. So these are the two experiences I have in the South. Other than that, to be honest, I have never, received any kind of racism in the United States. Of course, I know my limit. I know where to go.
What was your limit?
My limit, there are a certain area which I was not supposed to hang around. All right? There are area for Ku Klux Klan. There are areas which white men or women, not women actually, men don't want to see black people at all. So I know my limit.
Were white women different?
The white women are absolutely different, you know. In my sociological study, one thing I found out, white women are not racist. In fact, why white men are racist is because white women likes black men. This is I wrote actually an article on that, which in my graduate school, which really made very furious, angry majority of my classmates. You know, while I was here, a revolution took place in Ethiopia, and I heard the military junta overthrow Emperor Haile Selassie. Well, I mean, it was just a news. And usually I was tied up with my education. I was not following the Ethiopian politics that well. One day, usually at 6:30, I listen to CBS. I love Walter Cronkite, you know, it's famous. So I was out of Colombia for a meeting, so immediately when I opened my door and I switched my television, Walter Cronkite was said, the bloodshed, the revolution in Ethiopia went to a bloodshed. 16 high officials were executed, and I couldn't believe my eyes. So the first person I saw was General Kabade Gabri. Then comes General Asafa. Then comes General so-and-so. So I was just collapsed. And I cried a lot. Especially General Asafa, the man who has a long vision for the army as a chief of staff, and a man who reads, who has a respect for his family, and a respect for himself, and a respect for the office, and respect for his country. I work closely with him, and I know how he was visionary. And when he proposed so many plans, 15 years, 20 years plan for the army, I was part of that. And all that came to our mind. This is a man who, at the age of 50, he was 50 or 46, every Thursday and Wednesday, as an ex-Air Force, ex-Air Force commander, he used to fly 2 hours, very strong. He never used Mercedes or some, he walks from his house to the office by himself. A man, you give him a book, reads and analyze it. So what can I say? I was just shocked. And that day, now I said, it is true that army is a brutal. A military junta means brutal. So I took a note and wrote to the embassy that I'm no more in the army. It's a protest, anyway. So actually that shocked me a lot, and I was supposed to even go back to Ethiopia before I finished my PhD, because he told me, you have to come back within 4 years and don't stay there like others. He gave me so many advice, and honoring his advice, I was about to go back. But that's actually shattered my going back to Ethiopia. So I finished my PhD. I taught school at one of the college, Benedict College. Then when I heard my father passed away, I came back really to support my mother. And that's the story. I dedicated this book to the General Asfaw. Good question. As I told you, my parents were in Harar. My mother, we used to live in a very luxurious life. So all the lands were nationalized. So the Oromos, actually my parents were not chased out by the Oromos, but they came out of fear. But they don't have any property. So the only thing they was with my sisters, my two sisters, Tsahai and Tsige. So I came just, the sake of my mother. I want my mother to be, I was, when I named my son Asfaw, it's in the memory of, just to honor my father. I want to show Asfaw for him as well, that I named him, but that didn't work out. So I came, and thank God, I found my mother. But one thing I decide, if the army wants me to serve, to vehemently reject the offer, and I decide even to go up to jail. That was my intention. I told this Bakala, the day I went to the Ministry of Defense, I told Bakala, who's my best friend, as I told you earlier, Bakala, if I'm jailed, please take Asfaw and give it to the American embassy. He's an American, so they send him to Ethiopia. That was my decision. Well, fortunately, when I went to the Minister of Defense, the defense minister, whom I know previously, now he's a lieutenant general, and I knew him while he was a captain. I didn't even know he would recognize me. So he got up, The moment they opened the door, the aide-de-camp opened the door and allowed me to enter. You know, on that chair, who I saw? General Asfaw. For 2 minutes, I saw General Asfaw. And the guy was smiling, so I thought it was General Asfaw who smiles. Anyway, that was for a split of a second. Then he called me, "Hey, fish." So he grabbed me very warmly and had me to sit down. And now, you know, I was ready. So I told him, "General, sir, I went to the United States. Here is my BA, here's my master's, here is my PhD. So, you know, before I finished, he said, congratulations. When many Ethiopians are crossing the border to leave the country, you came through Bole to serve your country. Congratulations. Now ask me anywhere you want to serve." And I told him, "I'm not in the military." He said, "Who wants you in the military?" "No, you are no more in the military." Boy, I was so happy. That's the jubilee. And he asked me, he called his aide-de-camp and said, "Next time, wherever he wants to work, please let me know. We will assign him." Then the next I went to the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister was also a good friend of mine way back. I went to the Prime Minister's office. He was special reception, fish. His name was Fisaha. And so he called me Fisaha. And he asked me, "What's my plan?" I told him, "Well, my immediate plan is to look for a house for a rent." He laughed at me. And Fisaha, house is now belong to the government. So there are no house to be rented. He called his aide-de-camp and told him that I should be given a house within 2 days.
Is this the house we grew up in?
No, the one in Piazza.
Okay.
Not the Bole. The Bole is after a year and a half. I mean, that's it. I mean, everywhere I go, you know, I was assigned the Minister of Labor. I did like the Minister of Labor. The minister and I would go along, and within 3 months, I went to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Boy, I was the happiest man. I met Mengistu Haile Mariam at the conference in Kenya. Among those crowd, he came and he shook my hand. "Fisaha, how are you?" I heard I was, you know, the head of state, the brutal, the killer. I mean, Mengistu Haile Mariam calling my name, so everybody was looking at me. I said, "Do you know him? Do you know him?" I said, "Of course I know him, a long time ago." Then Ministry of Foreign Affairs was really a school. I learned a lot about Ethiopian diplomacy, about international politics. And then one bright afternoon, I was called to the chairman office at the party. I have never looked left when I passed Arat Kilo, where the party headquarters. That was my fiercest building. And when I went there and he sat down and he briefed me about the revolution from A to Z. And finally he asked me if I would work with him. Who will say no? Huh? So my career at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs finished there. And luckily enough, he didn't put me as he didn't assign me as a party functionary. Instead, I was assigned at the Institute of Ethiopian Studies, which became another university for me, which allowed me to know about Ethiopia, about its ethnic groups and its history, its norms, values, the difference between rural and urban people, and etc., etc. That's a tough question. Ethiopia means to me. Ethiopia is actually my life. Ethiopia is a life for my children. Ethiopia is a country, might be poor. Ethiopia might be sick politically because of some sick politicians. But Ethiopia will never, never, never die. It will never die. When I say by death, Ethiopia will never be, dismantled. Ethiopia will not be like Sudan. Ethiopia will not be like Somalia. Ethiopia will not be like Syria. Ethiopia will not be like those countries who were completely, dismantled. Ethiopia is my Ethiopia, will live forever, with its green, yellow, red flags up, as I put it on the cover of my book. Good question. I advise the new generation to sit down and think, not to be engulfed by, off-the-cuff politicians, not to be misled by a short visionaries. To understand Ethiopia, you have to sit down, think, read about Ethiopia. Read Ethiopia historically. Read Ethiopia biblically. Read Ethiopia even politically. See, this is not a country which is actually built simply. Ethiopia got its name, its independence, its fame, not easily. Ethiopia went through a lot of processes, a lot of ups and downs. So the young generation should understand that and bring the new Ethiopia into reality.
Thanks, Steve.